Hey Dan.
How you doing, mate? Long time no see.
You internet better today?
Yeah, it seems to be fine today. I don't know what Dad was fucking around with yesterday, but we think we're good to go. Fingers crossed. Should be all right. I appreciate your patience as well, man. It's just it's one of those ones that all
Oh,
comes in.
sure. I understand it happens. It's all good.
Now, before we get stuck in, is that a gaming headset I can see? Like, what games you been playing?
Yeah, I play League of Legends and Rome Total War.
Do you play like was it Dota and what other ones? There's quite a few like Hearthstone, those kind of like same kind of like
Yeah,
similar.
oh man, like there's loads of games similar to like League. But I'm weird. Like when I get obsessed with something, I just do that, and I don't really enjoy anything else. So I like at my worst, I probably play like 3 to 4 hours in a day, like for like a month, and then I'll have like a few weeks off. Um,
Have a camp.
but yeah, I was gonna tell myself like when I stop playing it for a few weeks, like take your time, like because between jiu-jitsu, like with my hands and that and gaming like relentlessly, it does like fatigue my hands all the time.
You tape your fingers up to play League. Well, you know the
No,
meow bro.
no, but honestly, like I should, like, but it's yeah, like when I see a physio, they're like, "Do you overuse your hands that much?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And they're like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I just train 2 or 3 times a day, then probably on my phone all day, and then when I get home, I just computer game all night." They're like,
That'll do
"Yeah,
it.
you probably like 5 of that." Like,
Just a little bit.
yeah,
I can imagine like post interviews now saying, "How was your camp for this?" And yeah, got a lot of hours in, a lot of rounds. Didn't do any jujitsu though. Thinking.
yeah, yeah,
I guess we'll just get stuck in from there then. So I'm not sure where we got to yesterday, but let's just sort of fire away. So
yeah.
you've been announced to compete at the Grapple Fest in a couple of months.
Yeah, I might be committing on Grapple Fest in about 2 weeks' time. It is.
What's the current plan for that then? Like, how's your training going at the minute? Are you still staying busy at the minute? Are you doing solo stuff? What's
Um,
your thing?
Obviously, I've just recently started back training with a small group of people. I've got a twin brother who is a black belt BJJ as
Hmm.
well, and he kind of he's
Shout out,
part
Josh.
of my yeah, Josh is like also one of my coaches, and he obviously rolls at a good level. And he wants to come back competing, so he's actually been taking lockdown very seriously. He's got back down. He's lighter than me, and he used to be like 6 kilos heavier, so he's on lighter than me at the moment, and he's just training hard. So he's a good sparring partner right now. So we just train, 2 3 times a week. That's one of the things I think lockdown has maybe really shown a light on for maybe athletes is the fact that I don't know whether the contact and physicality of sparring 2 times a day, 5 16 times a week. I don't know if it's as necessary as what you think it might be. I'm in two minds because I feel really prepared, feel really fit and strong, and I feel great when I'm rolling. Like I feel like because I'm having a day in between a lot of sessions, or say we train like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday, Saturday, then I'm getting like rest days in between of contact. So when I'm sparring, I get to spar like super hard, really, really productive, strong rounds. And I feel great in those sessions. So potentially when this is over and things ease up and we get back to normal, I don't know how much I will be rushing back to training 2 3 times a day. I think like that's like I don't know. I think maybe that's come and gone. I don't know if athletes are really training that much or just saying they train that much, But some guys will say they train 3 times a day, but like one of those sessions might be like a 15-minute run, So that's not you're not talking like three 2 hour sessions or something, So I actually feel really good. Yeah, really enjoying. I actually love being on the mat. Like it's incredible how much you don't realize rolling or just doing a bit of jiu-jitsu just like takes a lot of stress from a lot of other parts of your life. Like it was like probably 2 months or 9 weeks or something we hadn't rolled in. And the first roll back, I was like, flipping heck, man, it's insane how just good it makes you feel again, So I'll just be happy to be back out there. To be honest, I just love competing, and I had a really big year planned, and obviously that's gone well, way quieter than it was going to be. But I'm just happy to be competing again.
There's so much in there to go through. So like, let's go off about with you training with your brother. Now, obviously having the same kind of, say the same sparring partner frequently, how do you find, I don't know, you make the most of that? Because again, if you guys get so used to each other's sort of styles and game plans as such, Do you do something like
Okay,
specifically to make it more productive as
so
such?
this is probably one of my favorite topics. Um, and it's not just about the same sparring partner, but it's the fact that obviously I come from a relatively small gym in a relatively small city. And when I first went there with my brother, our coach at the time, Chris, he was a purple belt, and there were like 2 or 3 blue belts. And one of the biggest things I always get in discussion about is people have whenever I started to compete at upper level, people always ask me like, "Are you going to go away to get some spar now? Are you going to bring some people in the spar?" And I always just kind of answer with the same response, like, it's not broken. So I don't understand what are we fixing, because the process is working. So like I feel like the people I've got around me are sufficient, and if you train intelligently and utilize your sparring partners to the best of the ability, then you can make the best camp in the world with a room full of purple and brown belts. It's not like you need 20 black belt world champions on the mat to produce another world champion. Sure, that's going to help. That's definitely going to make it easier. But like with regards to the question you asked, the one thing I always say to people, is that we'll start rounds like pure just straight wrestling, mimicking styles. We'll go top bottom, gi no gi. We just mix up our sparring quite a lot so that it's always fresh. And what I really enjoy the most about frequent sparring partners is what you find out with a lot of other people is if like 2 people spar the same and they spar consistently, like a 5-minute round will basically start repeating itself. And I always tell people that after you repeat a similar role 2-3 times in a row, you've got a decision to make now, because either you completely bin something and change something up, or you look at how that person is dealing with what you're using, and then you utilize that information to improve yourself. So I look at the second one as the approach I try to take. So say I'm trying a particular passing sequence on my brother, and he is utilizing K-guard or Mantis guard or whatever he's trying that day. Then what I try is I obviously try to like counter what he's countering with, and then still complete my pass. And the beauty of that is within a week is he will counter my counter, and then I'll counter his counter. And then the role does actually start to develop, and we get more productivity out of it, because instead of allowing a role to repeat itself, we use the information to progress the role, and maybe try something new. One of the things I think which is lovely in the gym, in particular that I train in, and the guys who got with me, is that like no one's really afraid to try anything new. Like everyone will. If someone's like, "Oh, I just saw this new back take," like if you show it to people, we just start trying each other, and if it goes wrong, it's not like an egotistical training environment where we put each other down for losing, or we celebrate submitting each other or anything. Like there's banter within the training environment, which I'm always for. But I really think that it's about, if you see something new, you've got to be willing just to try it and implement it in your game. And you don't get like that stuck in a rut of what your class is your A game. That's the funny thing, is most people get stuck in a rut, and the rut is actually their A game, and that's kind of the one you're trying to avoid, really, because you want development in your A game. So by playing your BCD game and you're just trying new things out, you get new information, and you can utilize that information to progress. And that's kind of again like that's the beauty of lockdown. We've been zooming quite frequently between like 5 or 6 of us higher level guys in the gym, watching ADCC matches, watching world gi, world nogi, just a fight to win, anything Kata. We watch some of my own matches, anything we can get our hands on, was watching footage and just seeing what really people are using at the highest level. And then but the big difference is what a lot of people do is they watch, and then when they spar to win, so they play their A game. But what we try to do is watch and then implement that into the game, and then use that information to add it to our game. So that's really what I think is important when you consider trying to progress in the situation you described, where you've got a similar sparring partner. Do you get stuck in a rut, etc. And I think it's only if you allow yourself to.
I mean, that is really interesting the way you've sort of described that again, because again, but it's always necessarily described as the same person. It's like almost a one-dimensional thing. Like Josh is always going to go in a straight line, always going to do the same thing. But no, it's just the same amount of variable as any other person. Just the fact you're
Yes.
familiar with their initial like A game as such. And when it comes to
Yeah.
your sort of sparring, like what was the usual percentage from like we'll call it, because athletes don't like to say light rounds, but technical rounds of like playful trying around stuff, to hard rounds, like sort of all in trying conditioning, kind of like go for the kill.
Okay, yeah. So, like on a like obviously in current situation, obviously we're on sparring 3 times a week. So I'd say like, what we try to do, in sparring when I'm organising sparring or when I'm taking the session is, I always think like about halfway through the session is when you start to get like more competitive. So say you're doing 8 rounds that day, 10 rounds that day, 6 rounds, whatever it is, you just halfway through the rounds. The first 3 rounds, you might be flowing more, trying out newer things, exploring a few more options, trying different things on. Like, for example, like my favorite thing when sparring is always, so Dan, do you train yourself?
Yeah, blue belt, 2 stripe. So
Like,
pretty much, black
perfect,
belt as
yeah.
well, pretty much, but yeah, pretty
So, no, so what I
I'll see
would
you
do is
soon, you're right.
yeah, say I was going to train with yourself. I would go, so Dan, what's your favorite position? And you might go like, if I said, what's your favorite guard? What's your favorite guard? Out of interest.
De La Riva.
Okay, perfect. So I will go, oh, wicked. All right, Dan, let's start a roll. I'll touch hands with you, and let's say you pulled guard. I would actually force myself into De La Riva fully. So I'd let you fully establish De La Riva, then I would attempt to beat it. So what I just try to describe this a lot when I travel and teach and stuff. Like, say you've got five prime sparring partners in the gym, yeah, and like this guy could beat this guy, this could beat this guy, this guy beat this guy, and so on, yeah. This what happens a lot in the gym is because of styles clash, different people can beat different people. But what is actually intentionally happening is, say this guy is playing a certain game against this guy to beat him, then he tries the same game against this guy but it doesn't work because he's got a different favorite guard maybe. Then what this guy would start doing is he would avoid the game he uses to beat this guy, and he would now try to avoid the guard this guy plays. Well, what I like to do all the time is just go, right, what's your favorite thing? Wicked, you think you're good at that? Well, then put me in that. If it's close guard, if it's half guard, butterfly, whatever you think is your strongest tool, I would like to try and counteract that. I want to fight against that because I don't want to try and suck you towards my game and take away all your strongest options, especially if you're one of the better guys in the gym. I think it's important that you face the challenges head on, and accept maybe loss every now and again if that's what comes up. So when we spar and we do those like 6, 8 rounds, 10 rounds or whatever, the first 3 rounds, generically, I'd pick like lighter people. For example, we've got a couple of females who are 50, 60 kilos. We've got a couple of guys who are like 70, a few guys, below that, like low 60s. But basically, I don't really go with anyone 80 kilos or plus in the first 3 to 4 rounds. And I might try like berimbolos. I might try some different wrestling techniques, some chaining some techniques together, and basically moving a lot more in my role. And trying to basically work with that person so I see what they're doing, and then I counteract it. And then as I go later into rounds, I will spar with the most competitive guys in the gym. In an ideal scenario, I'd pick. I got like 3 or 4 guys off the top of my head I know who I enjoy sparring with. And then, like, say one was a good wrestler, I'd try to out wrestle him. If someone was good at guard, I'd try to pass him as many times as I could. If someone was good on top, I'd pull guard and try to sweep them or submit them off my back. And then maybe one of them I would set a straight, play my best game, and really push for as many submissions as I can within the time frame, So I like to kind of split my training 50-50 with regards to sparring because um, I saw like a post Danaher did. And the issue is like the thing I hate about stuff like this is the fact that like it's often what people tell their students already, and then Danaher comes along and posts something on Facebook, and I was like, "What the hell? How did this guy think of this? This is magic!" And I'm like, "Oh man, I tell you this every day. Like literally, I stand in front of you every day, and I just bang on about this. Like about the whole idea. Like everyone thinks your sparring partner should be the toughest guys in the room all of the time, and that's just a terrible use of your time, because you are literally spending every single round treading water, pushing absolutely flat out just to maintain, just to keep up with the guy. What you want is the ability to think. You want the ability to have like fresh air and be like, right, from this position, I could maybe try this, or this. Where when you get someone who can beat you, you haven't got the chance to think, I could try this, or this. By the time you think in your head, oh, maybe I could do this, they're already doing something. and they're capitalizing on you already. So that's why I really like to split my sparring with a few lighter rounds where, it's not lighter in terms of technique. We are working technically hard. I don't believe in sloppy jiu-jitsu. That's one thing I push super hard on my guys. Is that if, for example, you're with a lower grade, say, for example, I was with you, Dan, and someone was like, oh, do you think you could cartwheel past him? I was well, yeah, I probably could, but it doesn't mean I should, because when I go out and fight AJ Agazar, I'm not going to cartwheel past him. I want to translate the game I'm playing in the gym to the competing area. So if I'm doing sloppy or lazy jiu-jitsu with a lower grade, it only encourages me to do sloppy, lazy jiu-jitsu going forward. So I said I go lighter rounds, but not sloppy, and I work good movement, and then I work upwards in competitiveness then until you're really dogging hard for like 2-3 rounds. And that's pretty much, I class as a good session for me, for sparring wise. And that's pretty much what I'd like to do 3-4 times a week, is just get that good sparring session in where, and then talk about it after, just get some feedback off the guys, see what was working, see what wasn't working. One of my favorite things to do is if, someone catches you something particularly good, ask them at the end, oh man, you caught a wicked pass me today, what sequence were you playing, what were you thinking in your head, and get some feedback.
I mean, there's so much to go into with all this, but ultimately, this whole concept of I don't know, sort of smart training and being a bit more efficient with your hours you're putting in, and again, this kind of idea of the whole thing of everyone trains. I don't know. You see on Facebook after my third session of a day with like X amount of hours, thinking, was it though? And you sort of scratch yourself,
Yeah.
saying, oh yeah, I had my morning Tai Chi stretch in the afternoon session of watching fights. Thinking, yeah, that's your actual 3 sessions a day, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But again, it's that working smart, and also when you're in the gym, not getting smashed by the 100-kilo white belt because apparently you meant to always beat them really easily because you're a higher grade, even though they're just
Yeah.
messing your neck up. That's a different conversation. But again, it's this kind
No,
of
so
idea of sorry, go on.
yeah, that is literally what you're talking about. Is the thing that I am biggest on is I'm big on the idea of diminishing returns. So I always want optimum gain for the time I'm putting into something. I don't want to be spending 5 hours at the gym. You always get those people. We got people in our gym who come down and they're there from the first session to the last session of the night. They're for 3 hours. I've only trained in an hour and a half of those 3 hours, and then I've maybe gone to sauna. I've watched some guys roll, I've had a stretch or whatever I've done. And, this person's trained for 3 hours. And I'm like, you literally haven't broken a sweat though. Like you have, like, you've done a round, then you've sat for 3 rounds, then you've drilled some technique for one class. And even then you just chat to the person, you drilled once, had a chat, then you watched the coach teach another thing, drilled once, twice. I'm like, think about how much hours you're putting in and the reward you're getting back. Unless you just want to do it for the social, which I don't disagree with. Like, people can do jiu-jitsu for the social aspect of it, cool. But obviously, yeah, I'm a competitor and I want to compete at the highest level. So that the social side of training is like the smallest, like it's the least on my priority list. It's just lowest down. Like, when I get into the gym, I want maximum reward for the time I'm there. So when I'm sparring. Someone goes, "Oh, can you answer this question?" I'm like, "No, I can't, because this is sparring time." Like, after sparring, man, I'm around the gym for 2-3 hours all the time. I mean, you can ask me a question any single day of the week, but right now this is my time, and I'm going to work. Same as I got this. I always say, like, but so you go to someone, I said, "Oh, Dan, do you want to have a roll?" And you go, "Oh, all right, I'll get beat up." I just go, "Don't stress, pal. You go spar with someone else, then I'll spar with someone else. There's no problem." Because I want to spar with people who want to spar with me. All of this is to do with utilizing your time to the best of his ability. Because say you come into the role mentally defeated against me already, then how am I going to get any competitiveness out of that role? And it's like wasting 5 minutes of each other's lives. So why even contemplate that? Why even play with the idea in your head of, yeah, it'll be fun or it'll be a good role for me? Because it won't be. So, like, when I go train, same as like lifting weights. I talk to quite a lot of people, PTs and other guys, about lifting weights quite a lot, because I don't actually enjoy lifting weights or doing any weight lifting, because every time I want to do them, like, I always want just like the optimum amount you should lift to just see strength gain that doesn't diminish away from your ability to roll. But I did find often, like, when I started to lift weights a lot more, I was unable to spar as consistent, and I was getting a bit more injury prone and stuff, you know. But I think that's due to just a lack of knowledge and information, you know. So that's where I'm going to go next, is try to add conditioning to my training regime so that I do, again, get optimum performance from the time I'm spending training, you know. But, you know, when you get these guys who train like 9 hours, I tried it. This is one of the reasons why I was so pro training smart, and I looked into a lot of different things, because I saw like the Meows training regime, and obviously they spend a lot of time just in the gym. You know, they'll drill, then they'll spar, then they'll drill, then they'll go to shop, they come back, but they spend all the time in the gym. You know, and I was like, oh, fair play, man. If you're gonna come, if you're gonna become world champion, that's what you got to do. Obviously, man, these guys are training so hard. I need to be doing this. I did it for 3 days, and I literally never hated jiu-jitsu so much in my whole entire life. I was like I love what I do. Like, I absolutely love what I do. So why take the fun out of it? Like, even though it might make you marginally better, but you literally will start not enjoying your life. And to me, I never wanted to get in that position. You know, like when I talk to people and they ask me about my competing, I've always said I'm a super competitive person. Like, that's true. But I think a lot of people who do jiu-jitsu are super competitive because it's such a physically dominating sport, you know. So I think a lot of people do it deep down. They are competitive, you know. Nobody goes and they're like, I don't care if I just get tapped 100 times a day. You know, like, a lot of people say that out loud, but in their head they probably go home and they don't really feel like that, you know. So like, I'm super competitive anyway in anything, you know. Like, I played a round of golf today, competitive. Doing anything I do, I'm super competitive, and I push really hard to get better stuff. But when I came to jiu-jitsu, like, I was super competitive by nature, but I didn't actually come to jiu-jitsu initially to compete at a high level. I just enjoyed it so much. I just loved it. I just loved the idea of it, and I just trained, you know, for years and years and years. Um, and if anything, like I say to a lot of people, you know, like, because I've trained a fairly long time now. You know, I've probably trained 12 years now, but I think my last 4 years, I've probably progressed more than I did in the first 8. You know, I think I'm getting exponentially better now with my time, because my goal setting is so much more specific, and obviously every session I go to, I'm solely focused on progression. Like, I really, really want to keep getting better. Where before I used to go for the social, I just love it, go down, have a ruck, have a scrap, you know, enjoy myself. You know, never miss a session. But was I always, you know, like in school, never missed a class in school. I didn't get all A stars though. Do you mean I didn't miss that much university. I didn't get first degree like degree. Do you mean like that? And that this how I compare jiu-jitsu in school and stuff a lot, is where like you can turn up, that's not a problem, but it doesn't give you the A. You know what gives you the A is your effort and input to the material. And over the last 4 years, my effort towards jiu-jitsu has significantly increased. Hence why I believe I've progressed a lot more in that time.
Now, one thing's really interesting about this is the different kind of analogies and concepts about learning jiu-jitsu and managing the time and the efficiency amongst everything else. Is this something you developed in time from yourself? Is this something Chris Rees has given you? Is this something you've developed from somewhere else, something you read, or is this something you've just over
So
time developed?
um, I'm in like I'm in a fairly unique position where um, I was really fortunate in the time which I got into jiu-jitsu. It's one of the things I put. It's the only thing I really attest to luck, because I don't really believe in luck. I'm not really. I feel like it's actually quite. I feel it's quite offensive to call like an athlete lucky. I think like calling someone who competes at a high level, who does it full time for a living, and calling them lucky is quite offensive, because you know, if someone who, like, I don't know, is super high up in Amazon and they happen to be an absolute tech whiz and it is a brilliant, and someone just goes, "Oh, you're just lucky." Man, they probably committed years and years and years of their life to get good at it. Do you know what I mean? Which a lot of people do in careers or fields where they progress at, you know, is there's no luck involved. But when I got into jiu-jitsu, the reason why I say I was lucky in that respect is because Jiu-jitsu still, I would still class as relatively new or young in the UK. You know, there's a lot of people still don't know. Well, I say a lot of people, probably a higher percentage of the population don't know what jiu-jitsu is compared to who know what jiu-jitsu is. You know, where everybody knows what football is, everyone knows what rugby is. I mean, like, it definitely does show that jiu-jitsu is still young. Um, so when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was a white belt. Obviously, my coach was a purple belt, but it was the only Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym in the whole city. You know, now there's three. There's only three Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms in my whole city. You know, which is, that's very fortunate because it actually allowed me to create a livelihood from jiu-jitsu very early on. You know, like when I was 21, I came out of university. I immediately started doing jiu-jitsu full time, and I pretty much could earn enough money almost immediately from coaching, thanks to Chris Reese, to be fair. He took me on straight away out of uni and said, look, man, I'll pay you to coach with me. Um, and that's what I attest to being quite lucky because, you know, in a lot of other cities or a lot of the places where maybe there's 10, 15, 20 black belts on the mat, you know, like this kid in the bullpen who's a white belt, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll pay you to coach. Because I was only a purple belt when I came out of university and I got, I was only purple when I started coaching to earn a living. And I was just really fortunate in that position. So I think I spent a lot of time doing things wrong to, you know, with concerns to your question about how I believe I got to the mindset I did. I did a degree in physics, and I've always been very maths orientated. So I've always loved the maths and sciences. So I think I've got a very analytical brain, and because I've been in it for quite some time, I think same as like a computer, you know, just making errors and then learning from the error and correcting itself. I think that's what I've been doing for a long time. And up until, I think it was like 6 years ago, I did my first trip to the United States with regards to jiu-jitsu to compete and to travel and train. And that's probably when I started to do my biggest U-turn in like opening my eyes to what jiu-jitsu could be. You know, America just like, it's as if they're like 10 years ahead of us. You know, everything they do is so much more professional. It's all, you know, it's always on point. Like they're so much more committed to, if they want to get good at something, they just don't mess around with it. You know, like even if you just look at like their grassroots, college football. Like compare that to like our university football and rugby. It's just like it's worlds apart. Do you know what I mean, like what they do with their athletes is a total different level. You know, they look at everything. They really analyze everything, which is going to make you the best athlete you can be. And when I went to America, it just made me really think about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be in the next few years. And then when I came back, I spoke to my coach, spoke to my brother. We implemented a lot of new ideas. And then ever since then, I've just been obsessed with the idea of, you know, when I go travel, sometimes I won't even train. I'll literally just walk into a gym and sit and watch a class or just talk to the coaches or anything, you know, just to really see what people are implementing and why they train the way they train or why they do what they do. I don't really enjoy reading or watching like documentaries or books or anything on this type of stuff because it seems like I'm not massive on instructionals online because you can never ask the person why. Because say like, you know, if we were doing a one-to-one and I was describing a technique to you and I could see your face was like, yeah, man, this information is going in and I'm going to show you it right now. Do you mean like you can't get that from instructional and you can't get like the ideology, you can't get someone's mental state when you're watching them talk about like someone might go, oh, we do 3 3-minute rounds of this and then 5 5s of this and that's our competition session. And you know, unless you can go like, oh, why do you do that at this time, what do you do that for then, you know, like unless you can really like nitty gritty like pull the information out of them, you don't really get the complete picture. You know, like I would say one of the easiest examples of this in the sporting world is Conor McGregor. He's probably like I love him and I hate him because he is without doubt an absolute phenomenal athlete and a brilliant marketing and businessman and he really did change the sport, really, you know. But what I think a lot of people do now, you know, we have a lot of young guys coming to the gym who do MMA, and they're kind of like, oh, I'll just do what McGregor did. You know, I'll just do what McGregor. You know, it's no problem. Like 3 years, boom, we're making millions, no stress. But like what, like, but McGregor's skill set is through the roof. Like his actual skill set, his ability within the cage, it is leaps and bounds. It's just incredible everywhere. I mean, and I don't think enough people view what he actually does training. Do you mean like as in a lot of people see him talk and a lot of people see him post and say like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or oh, you know, I went for a run or this or that. But realistically, you know, what you need is you need to sit down with McGregor and go, right, for this camp, what were you training and why? You know, like you really need to understand like what the sessions were entailing and what mental state he was in for those sessions and stuff as well. You know, it's a lot more to it than just going, oh well, McGregor says we should do Ido Patel's movement stuff, so that's what's going to make me world champion. Like, bro, like, come on, like if it was that easy, everyone would do it.
Well,
You
with
know?
that as well, it's even more interesting that whole thing of scratching beneath the surface and seeing what's actually there. Like, I'm not sure if you read Coach Kavanagh's book about his whole journey and stuff, and talking about this side of Connor. Like, if you sort of scratch the surface a bit, saying, okay, you see this, you see the Udall Tower touch button, the Parkers, Nate Diaz calls it. What
Yep.
John Kavanagh describes that as like a sort of the cool down, like before the fight. It's just something you do just for a bit of loosening up. It's not like a full time training thing. And again, Connor always showing up late to class and all this kind of stuff, that kind of thing, that wouldn't run in any gym. It's only because he found the right person who would manage that. If someone says to you, class starts at 7 and they show up at 9, how much
Oh,
time are you going to give them?
that's the thing. Is like with someone like Conor McGregor, for example, um, he potentially could have walked into any gym in the world and been the same superstar he is. He could have walked into any gym in the world and been totally turned away and rejected. You know, like a coach can make and break an athlete. You know, a coach is a really important part of the growth of an athlete in terms of nurturing them and guiding them to make the best decisions. And again, that's one thing I'm really grateful for with my brother and Chris is like, you know, I could leave the country for 3 months, travel and compete and train, and they'll teach all my classes and they'll make sure that, you know, everything is sorted back home for me, which is it's such a good position to be in. You know, so like it's so unique. You know, a lot of people probably got that opportunity, which I've got, and I do think that, you know, with McGregor, you know, the Ida Patel stuff is just one of the easiest examples of you know, a lot of young people might see it and be like, oh yes, let's do that, and you're like, man, you literally have no idea about his full training regime or anything else he's doing. And that's why I've been so obsessed with how much time I'm outputting for what progress I'm making, because at the end of the day, one, you're not getting younger. Two, um, you know, there's methods and new stuff coming out all the time of how people are progressing. You get these 21-year-olds coming through that are absolute killers. And then you get these guys, you know, like, for example, the Dan Head Death Squads, love them or hate them, but, you know, they are producing exceptional athletes at alarming rates. You know, but if potentially I walked into the gym as me 12 years ago, but my gym was where it's at now, when I was a coach to myself, then maybe I could make myself very, very good within 4 or 5 years. I'm not sure, but it's you know, obviously I can't replicate that experiment. It could never happen. But um, you know, like when people say like, "Are you surprised Nicky Ryan is as good as he is?" Not at all. Not like, why would you be surprised that someone who is in the perfect circumstances to improve within a sport is improving? The kid's work rate is brilliant. I mean, his work ethic is fantastic. Like he is committed to getting better, and everything about his environment is pretty much ideal. You know, like how could you be surprised that someone like that is improving? It doesn't make sense for him not to improve. And I think that's one thing, for example, like Gordon Ryan potentially exploiting with regards to Brazilians, for example, is Gordon Ryan is, in my opinion, training what I class as smart, where Brazilians train hard. And Gordon Ryan is now technically beating some guys who have been black belt longer than he's been training. You know, and if that doesn't inspire you to want to utilize your time better, then I don't know what does. You know, because you can keep training, you can just keep going down the gym and doing rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds, and yeah, you'll get better. But where you really break through and become something, something really worth talking over or making waves, And when you look at someone like Gordon, he definitely has done that.
I mean, again, it's really interesting, this whole progression. And with that in itself, if we go back a little bit to where you were saying about your background being in sort of like maths and physics, it's very much, this is definitively right or wrong. This is very, set in stone. This is what is right and what's not. So when you take something like jiu-jitsu, where it's quite spurious in the sense of there isn't rights or wrongs in certain things. There are other ways of doing things. There's other ways of analyzing things, other ways of training. How do you find that works for you as such, regards of changing things and finding things and,
So I think the reason is that's very interesting because so there was a wicked debate a few months back, and I talk about this with my students now and again. We have a discussion about how we feel about it. But basically, Josh Hinger and Gordon Ryan were posting back and forth each other, kind of slagging each other off. Because Josh Hinger said there's no such thing as bad jiu-jitsu, wrong jiu-jitsu. And Gordon Ryan said, yes, there is. Basically, like you either the techniques are correct or incorrect because you're using mechanics and leverage to improve your position, etc. So there's two stances to take on this, because you could agree with Gordon Ryan straight away, because you'd be like, yeah, obviously he's right. The techniques work or they don't work. But I think Josh Hinger's point of view was more along the lines of, if the technique works at that given time in that exact instant, then it's correct, even though on paper it's wrong. Sometimes, you might be able to drive and complete a sweep, and technically, if you wrote it down on paper, looked at it, slowed it down in slow-mo, or whatever you want to do with it, you'd be like, man, he's got no right. Like, mechanically, everything is not in his favor, but at that given time, it just felt right. Because obviously what Josh Hinger and Gordon Ryan, in my opinion, like the difference in their point of view is obviously, in Gordon's point of view, I think everyone's a robot. Do you mean as in everyone's just like, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong? Do you mean and that's straightforward? But obviously, the one thing people don't take into account a lot when it comes to jiu-jitsu is the secondary person. At the end of the day, if that guy quits in that moment, well, the technique's right. If you're bullying him and it technically is not mechanically the strongest that you could use, but it could still be considered right at that given time. So that's where my debate is, when I stand with that debate in particular, is yes, I do believe, because if you take the maths and science approach to it, then yes, there's just right and wrong, as in the technique should work or it shouldn't work for X, Y, and Z. But I also believe that you've got to allow for you've got to allow for variability. You have got to allow for a certain degree of error so that you could get a technique to work. And that's one thing. For example, the drillers, the drilling versus concept approach kind of debate is quite a high one. So I stand on the concept side of it, as in I think concepts are better than drilling. But then I believe if you drill, you can drill correctly, which would lead you into conceptual learning. So, for example, if you drill the same technique for an hour, exactly the same from start to finish, at some point that ceased, for diminishing returns, that ceased to be optimum. As in, once you learn the technique and you feel like you know it and you kind of got it going, in my opinion, you need to add a degree of variability, as you need to ask your partner to maybe increase the resistance a little bit. So, for example, if you wanted to say you wanted to go to the gym and your goal was to bench press 150 kilos, and you only had the bar, so you only had 20-kilo bar, could you imagine how much more work you would have to put in than if you were allowed weights? Because you would have to just do a ridiculous amount of reps every single day to achieve the goal of 150 kilo bench press at some point. And you wouldn't even know, because you couldn't even monitor the progress. You've only got the bar, and then every now and again you maybe have to go oh, okay, today I think I'm going to do it, and then you allow yourself the chance to do it with 150 kilos. That's like sparring. I mean, as in you're drilling with zero resistance when you're just drilling, which is like the bar. And then one day you go, right, I'm going to competition now, or I'm going to spar now. So you're going to go from 0 or 20 kilos to 150 kilos straight away. That doesn't make sense. It's not optimum. It's nothing about that is progressive with regards to making a technique from 0 resistance to competitive resistance.
So what's
So
even
like
more
with
interesting? Sorry. So what's even more
go on, yeah.
interesting about that sort of analogy as well is that just taking in that sort of weight, sort of you don't know when you're ready, and that's not even taking account variabilities and sort of room for error. So say like you go for the 150 kilo bench and the bench is at an angle, or your whatever reason the
Hun-
grips are different.
100%. That's what I love most about jiu-jitsu. The other person is what makes the sport it is. Because no, like, say I said this to someone the other day. Like, say if you ask me, oh, should I drill this technique for an hour? I'd say, well, no. But let's say you played darts for a living and you said, oh, should I keep practicing this shot for an hour? I'd say, fuck, keep practicing that shot all day. Do it for 10 hours. Do it for basically for as long as you can continually have good repetitions. Just keep practicing because that is the only skill you need. Like swimming,
And drinking a
running.
pint.
Yeah, but it's all
Don't
about is
understand
like
that sport.
yeah, do like a number 10 in rugby. If they want to get good at kicking the ball between the posts, guess what you need to do? Repetitions. You have to just completely keep producing the same thing over and over and over again. But the problem is in jiu-jitsu is you can keep producing the same thing over and over and over again. And I know, like Gordon Ryan, for example, probably in this case would say, but obviously if you do this, it allows them this option. Do you mean like, and if you attack with this, then they're left with these options to pick from. Then this is why I always say the two most dangerous sparring partners for anyone is a brand new white belt and someone who is way, way better than you. Because when you do this, a brand new white belt could do anything because there's no logic in their head yet. I mean, they got no jiu-jitsu logic, so they could just react with anything they want, which is why I don't spar with them because they're probably one, the most injury prone to roll with, and two, obviously no competitor, no one I'm going to roll with competitively would give the same reaction they do. And then the guy who's way, way better than you, they can choose any option they want at any given time. So the variables are too big. So that's why I believe like your sparring needs to be with relative people, like, especially people you can beat is really good. But when it comes to that like repetition of that drilling the technique over and over and over again, like you have to keep adding the degree of variability and resistance because it's never going to be the same twice. No technique in jiu-jitsu is the same twice. That's what that is what it makes the sport so wonderful. And what makes the sport so enjoyable because you can go down on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You feel like you're repeating the same thing, guard passing, sweep in, but that's not true. No single role is the same. Where although like you could say no dart throw is the same, it
Pretty much,
man
yeah.
it's so close on it. Do you mean like the where they're aiming for and what they're doing? Like there's not much degree of difficulty to change in difficulty, or anything to resist or variables coming their way. So it's like you're solving a problem that can, or like trying to like cure a virus that can um
Like mutating and sort
keep
of thing.
changing. Yeah, keep mutating
What a
itself.
horrible analogy in this current climate. Ashley Williams, how dare
Exactly. Yeah,
you?
it is. Yeah, yeah. But that exactly. But that is what you just like in it. Is that you are problem solving, but there's something fighting against your problem solving. Like they are always trying to counter your problem solving. So it's just so wonderful to do that, and that's why you should be almost like mentally fatigued. When I believe you should be mentally fatigued at the end of the week from training very good week of training. If you're only physically fatigued but you're not mentally fatigued, then in my opinion, you're not doing anything different than you would do if you went to a weights gym or a funky pump class, a yoga class, or just anything that's endurance based. Like you literally go in for endurance. You're not going for the progression of jiu-jitsu.
I mean, that in itself is really interesting. Like, say if you take a sweep, for example, like, I don't know, flower sweep, wherever they
Mhm.
post is a massive variable, depends on your follow-up reaction, and then so on and so forth. Then it
Yeah.
becomes a conversation of how you then retain that level of variability and keep it on top of that. Because again, if you drill, you're already a few steps behind that then, because you haven't taken into account the variables, the what ifs, and that
Well,
kind of.
that's why I don't believe in the drilling because
Mm,
you're almost at a point of drilling, you're now almost being counterproductive because you're almost telling yourself that there's no option for anything else to happen other than what you're doing right now. And that's where I think that you need to be more progressive in the way that you train because, um, so for example, like with exactly what you said, a flower sweep there, like the way I would describe is obviously like say you're sweeping me to my right,
Hmm.
my right arm would cover the 90-degree of base in this quadrant of my body. My leg would cover the 90-degree, like this side of my body.
Hmm.
My head could obviously cover the middle, slightly depending on how experienced you are. The head could come into play. So if that's the 90-degree you've got, then obviously if my hand base is like in this higher part of this quarter, then now your sweep direction, if it was going this way, your sweep direction now just change to fill this void here between where my leg and my hand would base. That's where you want to put my weight now. Where if the hand goes down here, then obviously you want to put my weight in the void between my head and my hand here. Now that's how you would take a drilling of a technique into a conceptual based thing, because now using the idea of use the sweep to put the person's weight where the base isn't, as opposed to thinking about how just to complete the sweep.
Now that makes a lot more sense in the sense of sense in the sense that's a way of application again versus knowledge, and then how to make it really efficient as such. Like, you get the
Yep.
sort of, I don't know, the general sense of things. Like, you tell white belts, don't cross your ankles, don't do this, don't do that, and then you start. You can, but only when this sort of happens, like when you're above, like, I don't know, the belt line or whatever else. This kind of little variabilities. And when it
Yep.
comes to your, again, with the mental sort of aspect of it all, how much time do you spend thinking about a current session? Because again, you'll always be a backlog of things. So say you have 5
That's
rounds Monday,
so
Wednesday, Friday. By
yeah.
next week,
So
you're like still thinking about Wednesday.
so this is the one where I think this will distinguish someone who has got massive potential compared to someone who hasn't. So if I'm say I'm going to compete, say I've got if I'm in camp or I'm training really hard for something specific, I'll spend hours. Like sometimes I won't sleep. I'll literally sit in bed like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, man, how did he sweep me? I'm just like, how like I was doing everything right. Like how did he possibly sweep me? Like I was not doing anything wrong. And it'll just kill me. It'll just grill me inside. My head will keep going and going and going until I replicate the same situation again with the same person. They try the same sweep and I try to beat it. Like I'm really obsessive about stuff like that. So like if someone takes my back, someone sweeps me, someone takes me down, someone passes my guard, I just cannot switch off with that type of stuff. I'm always just like, ah man, how did that outcome happen when in my head it shouldn't have, and I really am obsessed with that type of stuff. And you get a lot of people where you go, oh, so I like I again I talk to a lot of my students about this type of stuff, and I think I'm really big on it. I think it's such an important factor in your progress of jiu-jitsu. But if we talk to you, Dan, and you rolled 5.5s, being a two-time blue belt, I would assume that you wouldn't remember a higher percentage of those rolls. So I did this experiment with two of my students. I got them to roll 3 times. Then I got them both to write down what happened in all those rolls 3 times. So very similar to maybe like a police report of a crime scene where someone just gives their account of what happened. But I just asked them, give me your full account. Just write down what happened. So what do you think were the prime details those people wrote down?
Position, submission, and if they won the round or not.
Okay, so the primary thing everyone remembers is whether there was a takedown or not, and then whether there was a submission or not. Most of the stuff in the middle was very different to each other. So like you'll get this all the time. Like say like you might roll, and then you'll be like, you'll be like, oh Ash, something happened in my roll. I'm like, okay, cool, what happened? And you're like, so I pulled guard, because you can remember that. And then you're like, then he was trying to pass for a while, and then I was on top somehow. I'm like, wait, go back. We're like, where's that? Where's that chunk? Where's that bit of the story gone? Like, did they pass get to mount and you bridge and rolled? Did they get a side control and you rolled them over? Did they pass you turtled, scrambled, and landed on top? Did you sweep them? I mean, like, what happened? And these big voids are often the parts of the roll maybe we don't want to remember. And generally it's because we're in a I compare it to like a cognitive and a um, reactive state of mind. So, for example, say you were against someone super tough and they were like dogging you hard for the round, they were pushing on you and giving you like the hardest round of your life. Chances are you would remember a lot less of that round. because your brain is not cognitively like processing what's going on and making direct choices for you. You are an autopilot. So you're just reacting to what he's doing, and you're trying your best for your autopilot to keep you in the game. Where if you have someone a lot less able than yourself, technically, or like lighter, etc., then you've got a lot better chance of picking the techniques you want to use. Hence, at the end of the roll, you'll remember a lot more of that round. So, again, that's why a higher percentage of your training needs to be with people who can't just kill you for the full round. Because how do you expect to progress if you can't cognitively analyze the full round? If you can't remember the round and then cognitively process it and go through that round and make adjustments to improve, how do you expect to improve? It's like I talked about, the easiest one is driving. Do you believe you got better at driving over time? No. You can do it, but you're not improving your skill set of driving. If I said race someone in a rally car tomorrow, you would be like, yeah, that sounds a brilliant idea. You'd be terrible. Like you like, because you don't practice. You're not practicing to drive. You're just driving because you're an autopilot wherever you drive. So you phone sat nav or whatever. So like, you're not trying to improve your performance within that skill set. So that's why I tell people, like when I roll, I try to stay as cognitively state of mind as I can, where I'm choosing my options all of the time. That way, I can analyze what went wrong, and I can try to make better decisions next time. Once you hit autopilot, unfortunately, the idea of progress usually goes out the window, because you're going to have those blanks. You're going to have those just little foggy parts of the roll where you don't really remember.
Now that's really interesting, that kind of analogy of like sort of progress. It's almost like when you get your license, you're like a blue belt level, and then at that point you stay at a blue belt level because you don't do anything of any variability. Words out, and again, you sort of stagnate.
But that is what you do. If I did my driving test now, I'd probably be worse. Even though I can drive, I can drive a car. I got a motorbike license. Again, I wouldn't I'm just a blue belt and do my on my motorbike. I don't progressively try to improve my skill set of being on a motorbike. It's an interesting thing to think of.
Well, this is it. It's that kind of, it's where you attain this kind of need to progress with it. Because if there isn't that need to progress in your driving, because you're already sufficiently attaining your needs for it. Whereas with jiu-jitsu and everything else, you're competing as an ever-changing standard. There isn't a definitive, you've passed, this is it, you completed it, nice one, here's your sticker.
This is the thing I cannot understand the most about most people who come to jiu-jitsu, because they pay their own money, they come up their own way, they come to the gym, and then when I teach a technique, they're looking at the ceiling. How? Like, what is going through your mind? Like, and you want to get better at this sport. You're not even watching the technique I'm showing. Never mind when man, what do you do when you're sparring? Count the ceiling tiles. I don't understand. Like, that's what frustrates me the most about the sport, really, is because everyone's a blue belt, everyone's a purple belt, everyone's a brown, and everyone's got a black belt. And a lot of people feel like they deserve the belts just from showing up. But again, I showed up in university for 3 years. I didn't get a first class degree. I didn't just get given it. I went to school. I didn't get given A stars because I turned up every day. Everyone else was there every day. What they had to do is they had to put effort in to achieve the qualifications they got. And whether you view a belt as a qualification or not is up to you. But at the end of the day, it is saying that you are at a certain standard of ability of this sport. So, like, what you want to achieve that without input of effort, it doesn't make sense. And the only thing I do say is the way that I do jiu-jitsu does suck the fun out of it a little bit, because you kind of treat it like you kind of suck the fun out of it because you're hard on yourself for everything.
Now, with that, then, let's take a bit of a turn with this. When it comes to belts again, when it comes to, again, the sort of spurious sort of lines people have for, what kind of cake is that anyway? Different conversation. When it comes to like...
It's a blondie, it is.
Oh, hello. Don't tell your missus. when it comes to like belt rankings, again, it's always up for debate as to what is qualified as each kind of belt. And again, having
Yeah.
quite analytical background, and then the sort of
Mhm.
variability kind of things as well. How do you find having distinct guidelines for grading, and if there
So,
even should be a belts as such?
mm, yeah, because the truth is, unless like it'd be easy for me right now to say I don't care about being a black belt because I am a black belt and I've been a black
Mm.
belt for a while now. But when I got it, it meant everything to me. By the end of the day, like Nicky Ryan, Rhea Tolos, they're purple belts or whatever. Are they though?
I
Are they
don't
purple
know.
belts? Like, are they like what? Like, so now we're putting an age definition on what a belt is. Is it a skill definition on a belt? Is like what makes the belt the belt? So I believe, from me personally, the way the grading system is structured, I think there should be like a scale for each belt, as in like there's a minimum of ability required, as in like, and not just like ability to perform it, because at the end of the day, like a 22-year-old like Nicky Rod, I don't know how old he is, but let's say he's like maybe
Mm.
22. Let's say he's 22.
Right
But
about
a
it.
22 Nicky Rod is going to perform a double leg a lot better than a 55-year-old middle-aged man who's got to be a belly. Whether the technical understanding is the same or not, Nicky Rod will be better. Fact. Just out of pure athletic ability. So, for example, like Nicky Rod being a blue belt or purple belt maybe now,
Mm.
like I believe that's fair. And if anything, giving him a brown or a black belt would maybe detract from the knowledge that some black belts have got. Because he is making up for a lack of technical information with athletic prowess. And he, you see this in his interviews. He says, I still lift every single day, and I do less jiu-jitsu, but I'm gonna keep filling that hole. I'm gonna keep working on my jiu-jitsu, and then obviously my skill set will improve. So giving him a black belt now just because he can compete at a high level, that doesn't really make sense, because he is filling a technical void with athleticism. But say you're in a gym and let's say you get two guys walk in, okay? You get like a Nicky Rod who can do back somersaults and everything else, and they're built like an absolute tank. And you get someone who's 22, never done sport in their life, can't even do a forward roll, and has got a terrible diet. Like, what does a black belt mean to those two people? Because it doesn't mean the same thing, does it? Like, if like the screen was a pitch, like a bar indicator of like start to the end of their journey. Well, if you think about it, Nicky Rod's already there. Like on his first day, he's already like way closer to this. If you put it on a definitive,
Mm.
this is the end goal. Nicky Rod's either starting ahead or this person's starting way behind. So say again, the full screen was like the progress you need to make from white to black belt. If like this person starts there, but they get to here, but it's the same amount of progress, is that a black belt to them? This is where you've got to kind of be a bit. I think you've got to kind of be a bit like relaxed in the situation, because you can't give a black belt lightly, because at the end of the day, it is, in my opinion, it does mean something to me. Like, I do believe that if someone says to you there's black belt BJJ, they would be very, very proficient and they could perform a good array of techniques. But then at the same time, you can't make a black belt unachievable, because someone who maybe never done a day of sport in their life and wants to really pursue something and make themselves a better person, like there's got to be a degree of flexibility in the belt level, because the belt is really only an indicator of progress. So it's an indicator of progress to you, which is why, for example, the Nicky Ryan and Rhea Tolos being purple belts people could be like, yeah, okay, cool, because what they've achieved compared to what they can achieve, they've still got loads of their journey left. So why right now just go, oh, there you go, there's a BJ black belt, just because you can compete at a high level? Like, they've still got loads to go in their journey. So let them enjoy it.
Now that's a really interesting. I've never had that kind of approach before. That kind of within their limits, you build that kind of spectrum of okay, this is what your blue belt equivalent would be. Because again, you get this kind of you get the competitive sort of athletic people, and you get the, you know, the hobbyists and that kind of thing. And again, it's interesting their kind of potential where they want to go with it, and then what is classed as a purple belt to, you know, a 40-year-old bloke who works full time and doesn't really want to compete versus, you know, people who
Yeah.
want to live in the gym and, I don't know, live with ringworm every 2 days, try and get rid of it. That's sort of the obsessive types. And
So
again, it's just,
I think it would be I think it would be it's very demoralizing, you know, for a hobbyist who wants to see their progress, but can't really commit the same as like these full-time athletes can. But yet is marked to the same standard, you know. Like that's why I think there's got to be a degree of reason within it, you know. Like you've got to be fair. But it is. I always say to my students, you know, like the first thing I tell people all the time is at the end of the day, it is a tough sport. You know, if you want an easy ride where you're going to get belts and you're going to just push through, it probably is not the sport for you, you know.
I thought you were going to name a martial arts and want to go and do that, but no, you're playing it safe. You're being all being nice.
No, I so for example, okay, like I think jiu-jitsu is one of the worst sports for being elitist with regards to telling everyone else that all of the martial arts suck.
Mm.
Like, man, if if a 40-year-old person wants to go out of the house, go down the park once a week, do air kicks, air punches, whatever martial art they're doing, and they're enjoying themselves, not hurting anybody, who cares?
Well, this is it as well. This is that whole
But
kind of like,
let them do it. Just like, are they enjoying? Yes. Are they hurting you? No. The only part of that which I disagree with is when someone's advertising it as you could defend yourself against like multiple attackers with 3 knives or a gun, and you're like, look, there is no logic. Like, stop selling people false hope because you're telling someone that you're going to be able to make them defend themselves, and to some people, man, they could get into like a serious situation, like a real situation where that happens, and they've got an illogical idea in their head of their ability to defend themselves. And that's the only thing I think jiu-jitsu is superior with regards to a lot of the martial arts, excluding maybe boxing and full contact kickboxing or Thai boxing, because they spar at a proper level. And that's probably where jiu-jitsu is superior to a lot of other martial arts and a lot of other sports, really. Because even if you take rugby players cannot train at full intensity every session, where jiu-jitsu can. You can actually spar full speed Monday to Friday and do the exact same thing next week, which is bizarre because our exact goal is to push a limb past the point in which its range is. So we're deliberately trying to like make the body, and we're trying to break the body, like literally break the body on a daily basis at full speed. Yet because of our control and our ability to do it, we're able to do it every day at full speed. Where a lot of the martial arts, for example, boxing, you cannot spar every day full speed because of repeated blows in the head. It's not responsible, you know. Like, and that's the thing when you compare jiu-jitsu to a lot of the martial arts. One of the superiorities it has got is the ability to perform it at a full competitive um, speed every day.
and as well, when it comes to that, it's really interesting the sort of comparing to like rugby and things like that, because if you take how long a match is versus how long jiu-jitsu match is, when you're getting 6 matches in equivalent in training, like 6 sparring rounds, versus if you do 6 matches of rugby back to back, 6 80-minute games,
Yeah,
you'll be there for a
yeah.
while, I think.
I think rugby players, see, they spend a lot of time on skill development and physicality. Lift a lot of weights, you know. I think about there was a season, I can't remember which season it was, but Wales, it seemed as if everyone put 10 kilos on. From one season to the next season, it seemed like everyone had gone from like they were soft, and all of a sudden everyone was like massive, huge arms, shoulders, chest, like no bellies. I mean, and they were all really match fit, you know. And I think that was from a lot of conditioning, not full contact training. You know, and that's what's beautiful with jiu-jitsu. That's why I love it, because I literally leave this now, go to the gym, spar someone flat out, go to sleep, wake up tomorrow, think about what I did wrong, and then just get to redo the match all over again tomorrow and correct those mistakes.
And on top of that, anyway, when it comes to a few other elements of this as well, it's again that mindset and be able to adapt to very specific situations, and the instant development on top of that as well. Because you take into account your position, say on the wing or fly half or whatever else, you're going to have very similar kind of thing. You don't exactly have like a game as such. You're not going to have like an inside Ashy game or some sort of like, you know.
No, well, I posted something today. Like, I think it was on Instagram. I reposted, sorry, someone's post about like, if, you can't basically hide in jiu-jitsu, you're gonna get found out. So it's like, oh, there you go. There are no shortcuts in jiu-jitsu. The truth is always exposed, and it probably is my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu because, like, I played a lot of team sports growing up. Played rugby, football, cricket. I was part of gymnastics team. No loads. I was always involved in team stuff. But when you lose or win as a team, then the blame is shared. Like, everyone's be like, oh, I know I missed my part here, you missed your part there. I played this good, you played that good, and you can kind of come to an agreement of what went wrong. But the truth is, when you are out there on the stage and you're performing and you're pushing and you're trying your best to win, you can hear your coach tell you to push harder. Like, your head isn't there, the gas tank, your body's failing you, everything. It's just you. And then, you walk off the stage, you're held accountable. You were to sit there with yourself and tell yourself what you could have done better, what you could have done worse. Have words with yourself and I'll see what went wrong, went right. Now, I've had some matches where the camp was perfect, even though we train all year round, all the time. Like, I felt brilliant for a match, performed terribly. Some matches, I literally, like, against Ethan Crownstone, for example, even though a lot of people said the decision was controversial, either way, I think it was a brilliant match, and I performed hard for the 15 minutes. But I literally came out of a cast after 8 months of no training, trained for like 4 weeks, and had a brilliant match and loved it. And I just enjoyed being on stage, and I just really enjoyed being there. And that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. If you make a mistake, it gets recognized. People pick it up. Like, you're in the gym, someone passes your guard. You can't hide that. You can't pretend it didn't happen, because it did happen. Where I think a lot of other sports, you can kind of hide in, like, even like if you take like me and my sports teacher in school. I always remember it. We had this big argument, debate. My brother was in the class as well. He actually left the class, man. He got annoyed and he walked out, and we were frustrated and shouting, because there's a sports psychology thing about needing to win, wanting to win and need not fail, or something like that. So basically, like, two people are performing. This person just wants to win above all else. This person just doesn't want to lose. And for a long time, we sat in class, and I was like, well, look, I don't understand what you mean. I was a lot younger at this point, and I hadn't had the experience I had in sports at that point. And she said, well, it's obvious, like, if you're swimming, for example, there's 8 of you in the start. At the end of the day, one person's standing there going, right, I'm going to win this race. One of the other people in this 8 is going, right, I just don't want to come last. Well, that analogy is easy. But man, if me and you have a jiu-jitsu match, it doesn't matter which approach you take. I want to win. I don't want to lose. It's only 2 of us. The result's the same. But from competing and actually having more experience in performing now, I really feel like I've come to terms with what that means, because I've been in matches where literally I'm like, right, look, just go out there, don't look stupid. Look, we might lose, we might win, we don't know, but we'll just go out there. Don't get submitted, don't look stupid, don't make yourself get embarrassed in front of people. Because like it is probably a fear for a lot of athletes. You don't go out there and get like flying triangle. You don't go out there and
Be a
just
highlight
get
reel
beat
kind
up.
of thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be someone else's highlight reel. You just don't want to. And for example, like the one that eats me the most probably is my most recent match against Cade Riotolo, where I performed terribly, but as within 2-3 minutes in that match, my mindset, boom, changed to don't lose, like not wanting to lose. So I was coasting a lot of the match. I didn't push as hard as I can. I can't explain why, and I've got no logical excuse. At the end of the day, I went out there and I tried my very best. But was that the best version of me? Man, no way. Like that, like, come on. Like, I can't wait. I'm desperate for that match back. I can't wait to lock up with him again. The results the same, fine. But at least I'll be able to sleep easy knowing that's the case, you know, because I want to match with him where my mindset is I'm winning, you know, and probably the most easiest example of that was when I fought Richard Alarcon last year. You know, we had 2 matches in 1 year, and the 2 matches were very, very different, but your mindset is so powerful, you know, and exactly, and from competing and performing, I now understand what my teacher meant, but she didn't explain it in a way which related to solo sports, but it still is very, very viable. It still makes perfect sense in solo sport if you look at how the person's performance levels are. You know, when I obviously argued with her because I was like, well, you're just saying the same words to me over and over again, going, well, this person doesn't want to lose, but this person wants to win. But in my sport, that's the same thing. But she was saying, yeah, the result is the same, but she didn't explain how you personally felt about it. Uh, but it's such a big deal, you know? And it's such an interesting thing to think about because I think a lot of people go out there in jiu-jitsu matches um, with the idea of not wanting to lose, you know, because I remember I went to the Europeans for the first time as a brown belt in the gi. Actually, the only time I've ever been to European gi. It's such a terrible time, man. Who wants to compete 2 weeks after Christmas? Like 3 weeks after Christmas? Like, I'm way overweight. Like, I just want to enjoy some downtime. Um, and obviously, I have a good like last run of the year. So like Christmas, I do have 2 weeks off or whatever. I try to chill out. Still train, but obviously I'm not in shape for the gi Euros. But I lost first round. And I saw someone from the UK. I can't remember who it was. It was someone from the UK competitor. And they're like, how'd you get on? I was like, oh man, I lost 2 points first round. And they're like, all right, how do you feel? And I was like, oh, well, obviously, what an absolute waste, isn't it? I've just spent all this money, thrown this way, like, cut weight, like, you know, like, I tried my best, you know, I did what I should have done, and I came out here and it didn't go my way. And they're like, oh, guess who else feels like that? And I was like, oh, who? And they're like, well, there's 6,000 competitors here, and how many of them feel the same as you today? I was like, well, I don't know. And they were like, well, half. 3,000 other people, so 2,999 other people, lost the first round exactly like you did. And they went home as well. You know, and they're like, guess how many people win one match? And they're like, well, half of that half. Because after that first round, man, like, is another full 50%
It keeps
of
in
the
half and
competitors
half
get.
and half. It is.
Yeah, the 50%. So, you know, like, only like 12.5% of the 6,000 competitors win 2 matches. And you know, you're sitting there like thinking it's the end of the world because you lost your first match. But why even bother going out there needing not to lose? Just go out there to win. Because at the end of the day, either way, you're in the same boat with so many other people, and you're gonna get way more opportunities to go perform that again. So go out there with everything behind you. Don't go out there like nervous about like, oh man, I don't know if, like, what's the matter? Like, just go and do your best. Like, because all you can do on any given day is you can make decisions under the pressure that you're under. And if anybody else wants to tell you how you should have done it, do you know what they should do? Go do it themselves. Because that's how. If anyone ever comes up to me and goes, "Oh, do you know what you should have done there?" I go, "Oh,
Show
yeah,
me.
you should have competed." Like, what? Why do you want to tell me? Like, why do you want to give me shit about my competition performance when I already know I sucked? When I walked off the kid match, I didn't even talk to my coaches. I just went, "Yeah, boys, look, I understand what it is. You understand what it is. Let's not talk about it. When we go back now to training, we'll put the things in place. It won't happen again." Like, we don't have to sit there and analyze the match. Why analyze a version of yourself that is not your true self? Dude, all we can analyze is the events leading up to that match, which led to the performance that I give, which we've done, and we try to improve that next time. We look at good performances, bad performances, and we look at like diet, sleep, like where it was, what time of year. There's loads of things to consider, you know, when it comes to performance. And we looked at all that type of stuff, and we decided when the best time to take the matches with certain people were, and we're going to do that from now on, you know. So I think you can learn a lot from when you go out and compete.
There's so much to really take in from that as well. When it comes to your mindset, when it comes to these big shows, and again, those same sort of initial, we're going to get the sort of nerves and the self-doubts and bits like that anyway, just being human. And when it comes to coming up short, how do you then find keeping that mindset as well? Because as much as you're going to naturally feel disappointed, how do you find being able to manipulate those feelings
So,
to then, I don't know,
so
make the most out of them?
right now, I'm not nowhere near as nervous, and I don't feel anywhere near as down on myself because I will get offered good matches now. I will still get offered good matches against good guys in the world. Which is all which what like now is way more than I ever thought I'd get anyway. Do you mean like legit people have been like, oh, compete against this guy, and I'm like, oh, who is it? Like, oh, they ranked 5th in the world. I'm like, man, I'm just like a kid from Swansea. Like, I just love training. I love jiu-jitsu, and I'll do it. Like, I'll go compete against anyone you want me to, but like, I can only do my best anyway. But when I first got on, like, for example, the first time I went to EBI, I was literally a nervous wreck. Like, I was in half, I was like, ah, man, like, the first time anyone's going to watch me properly, first time Americans are going to see me, and I just don't want to look like an absolute clown, I don't want to get embarrassed, be someone's highlight reel and all this. And it was actually the biggest confidence boost I've ever had, because I lost. Way more people talked about my match than I thought they would, and I got invited back. But the biggest difference is I went into that match going, well, what have I got to lose? Man, let's just go out there and do everything I can do, because like that's what jiu-jitsu is about, right? Just going out there and proving yourself. And then I got invited back, and then I did the same thing. Went to, I think it was Mexico that time. I lost, but again, I got invited back. Like, and it was because I was entertaining. Like I think like I go out there, I go out there to perform, and I go out there to push the pace. And yeah, my matches aren't always the cleanest or the most like technical, the cleanest technical level of jiu-jitsu, because there's a lot of scrambles. But I certainly feel like I don't quit, and I certainly feel like I don't like let myself down, let my teammates down. Like I don't want, like I want people to think of me as an exciting fighter, and I want them to think I'm an exciting grappler, and I go out there and I really push and really give everything I've got. And if that is what people think of me, then I'm going to be happy with that, And I feel like I'll always get more matches because, like someone goes to me, oh, how do you think you'll do against Gary Tonin? And I'm like, Gary Tonin will probably absolutely destroy me all over the match. But I'll do it. Like, man, if you want to see that match, I'll do it, and I will fight everything I've got. And who knows, I might scramble well, and I might do some good jiu-jitsu, but I might get absolutely smoked as well. But I don't know if you've seen, but Gary Tonin's pretty good, but yeah, but I'm not afraid to go compete against him, because why would I be afraid? I'm literally like, what you're asking me to do is go, can you try out that skill set you've been developing for years against this other guy who's developed a skill set for years, and you'll just have a little match together, and there'll be a result. But it's not exactly going to be like, like someone else is going to lose next weekend. Someone's going to win this weekend. There was a fight. There was a Kumite thing, a third course grappling event this weekend. Yeah, someone won it, but other people lost in it. Do you think all those guys are now going to quit the sport because they lost? No, they'll probably just compete next weekend. Like, it only takes really, if you look at, for example, McGregor again is one of the easiest ones to go for, but if you have the right concession of wins in the right time frame, in the right place, Lachlan Giles, he is probably the jiu-jitsu equivalent of this. He was no dispute before he went into ADCC, he was still very, very good. But literally, 3 matches changed his life. 3 matches, 3 heel hook wins changed his whole entire life. Now, I'm not saying I'm just going to sit here and wait for that opportunity, that moment in my life to happen.
To
But
get
that's not what
lucky.
I'm doing. Yeah, because it's not getting exactly. Lachlan did not just get lucky. He
You
was
don't
in the
get lucky inside heel hooks when I was Muhammad Ali, or his name is in the few other
no,
ones.
no. He got 3 heel hooks on 3 outstanding competitors. Are they the best competitors in the field with regards to their leg lock knowledge? No. The only thing that was, for example, me lucky for Lachlan was his draw, because what happens if he had Gordon Ryan first round? He would have lost, and then he'd be knocked out of ADCC, first round of his weight, first round of absolute. So the only thing that was lucky in that was the draw. But apart from that, man, that was all Lachlan's skill. And that skill he's developed over time and time and time of training. And I'm doing that training. So one day, who knows, maybe I'll get lucky and I'll get a good run. Exactly, I'll get a good run, and then everyone go like, oh my God, where'd this guy come from? And, like, that's all they want, that's what you can ask for as an athlete, is just right time, right place, right performance. But, like right now, if someone's like, oh, when I compete, like, what's the mindset? I want to win ADCC. I want to compete in ADCC. I want to prove that I'm one of the best 66 kilo grapplers in the world. Like, and I think I can do that. But when I compete now, all I'm thinking of is, like, my performance levels towards ADCC. So I might lose a match right now, but that's okay because there's a plan. There's a plan in place to make sure I get the performance when I need to get it. And that's what you got to aim for. I mean, you got to aim for the right performance, the right time. And if you do that, then you're going to have a very successful career. If you can't do that, then try again, because, like, Cabrera, 37, Grand Slam. Like, how much more? Like, Tanquinho, ADCC, like, champion. Like, you can do it. You definitely can do it, but you just got to be consistent all the time. For example, like MMA fighters, they probably frustrate me more than a lot of other athletes because of their idea of camps. They train a lot for camps. They do like you might not see them in the gym. You might just not see them for 2 months. They're out partying or whatever else. They're like 10 kilos above their fight weight. They're way heavier than what they should be. And they're like, oh, we got to fight for you if you want it. When is it? Oh, 12 weeks time. Oh, okay, cool. And they turn back up to the gym. Man, why weren't you developing your skill set in the last 2 months then? Why weren't you just getting better at jiu-jitsu? Why weren't you just getting better at wrestling, learning more technique? There's no need to take that downtime, is there? And as jiu-jitsu athletes don't do that, I don't think. I think Gordon posted about Brazilians being embarrassing, because,
Of course he did.
yeah, he did. He was like, man, like, some of them take like a month off, go to Brazil and party. Like, what other sport would you see? Like, you wouldn't see an American football take a month off in the year and do no development of skill. And he's actually right. What he's saying is actually true. Like, if you want to be elite within a sport, you can't just take like 1/12 of the the year off, or like, if you take 2 months off in the year, that seems like nothing. Oh, that's 2 months off. It's not. No, it's not a massive amount of time. But that's a sixth of the year. Like, a sixth of your time developing your skills within that whole year is gone. Like, that's why I was out of the country for a lot of last year. I was out of the country for 3 months of last year, and I didn't feel like I could train at the same capacity as I could back home. So fortunately, COVID has done it for me. But I said this year I'd only spend 6 weeks out of the country maximum.
What you wanted.
Yeah. So COVID's granted me my Christmas wish, like, but yeah, like, 6 weeks off. Like, I was like, I want to have 6 weeks out of the country because I want to make sure I can train to my full capacity for a high percentage of the year, so I can get the most out of myself. And it is, all of this stuff is, in my opinion, is super, super interesting. But a lot of people in jiu-jitsu would just say, like, oh, if you want to get better, just, the pull harder approach, just go down and train hard. There you go, cool. Because that worked for everyone in every single industry. Like, every industry you went into, everyone's went, oh, well, if I just go there and try my best, I'll be an actor in no time. I'll be a singer. That's just not how the world works, is it?
If you push this pool door hard enough, it will open.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But that's what, like, that's what my biggest argument with a lot of people is with the sport is consistency is key. But if you take any other working environment or any other skill set you develop, consistency isn't the key thing. Consistency is the minimum thing. Consistency is the lowest part of what you need to do to progress. As in, that's the smallest percentage of you have to at least do this to progress. Like, what I tell everyone is, like, not only, like, for example, someone who sits on their settee for 6 months has got 0% chance of getting good at jiu-jitsu. Someone who goes to jiu-jitsu twice a week over 6 months has got an actual percent of a chance to get better at jiu-jitsu. They're not guaranteed to get good. They've allowed themselves the ability to get better. Because that's all you've done. By turning up, you've allowed yourself an opportunity to improve. You haven't guaranteed it.
It's like what you were saying earlier about sort of showing up to school, not necessarily being guaranteed that sort of the A stars and this kind of thing. Again, it's just your layers of what is required just to, like, your core fundamentals is just like, be there, be polite, be on time, shut up and listen. And then it's
Yeah.
it's asking the right questions and so on and so forth, and it goes on and so
Well,
on.
that's the minimum. Like I said, like I had like a B in English. Man, I was lucky to get a B in English. I remember my teacher literally gave us an opportunity once in school because we were like playing up. I didn't really enjoy English as a subject. And she said, "Oh look, if you're all gonna be like this today, whoever wants to learn, talk this half the room. Whoever doesn't want to learn, go down the half the room, and you can play on your phones, do whatever you want." I just went down the other half of the room and played on my phone. Like, but that attitude is the attitude people bring into jiu-jitsu, but yet once they start, they want the purple belt, they want the brown belt, they want the black belt. That's not the real world. You know, if you turn up, you granted yourself the ability to get better, and that's all you've done. You're not guaranteed anything. You know, like, and that's what I always, the first thing I ask any child student is how they do in school. And it's not because I care about the results or actually like if they get A's or anything like that. That doesn't matter to me. I ask them because I want their reaction. Because if they go, "Oh, well, school's stupid," I go, "Oh, but you're there anyway, though, and you've got to go. So why not just listen? Because otherwise, you're just wasting your own day. If you're in school for 6 hours and you're just sitting there with the attitude, 'Oh, we're stupid. I hate school. I'm not going to listen anyway.' You're literally wasting your own time. But you know, if they take that attitude in school, how can I guarantee they're not taking that attitude in jiu-jitsu? You know, so like, and it's all about the fact that you're there anyway. In jiu-jitsu, you're there. So your attitude is what now determines whether you're going to improve or not. In school, you're there anyway. Your attitude determines whether you're going to improve or not. Most people's attitude to jiu-jitsu is you need to do it more. I always tell people it's not you need to do more. You need to do more when you're in each session. You know, it's not about doing more sessions. It's about doing more for the time you're there.
Well, again, it's the whole thing of working smart, not necessarily working longer and harder as such. Like, yeah, you can rep out as much as you want. Yeah, you can show up every day and, coast and just make the hours up. But if you're not understanding what you're doing and you're not trying to, like, build on these kind of concepts and understand what you're learning.
Yeah.
have
Really,
fun.
what I find crazy is obviously with jiu-jitsu is the most fun part is winning. So why not want to get better?
So you can win,
Why
yeah.
not push yourself to improve as fast as you can because you're going to beat a higher percentage of the students in the class, and that's way more fun.
So no one likes losing. They can say, "Oh yeah, no ego," but yeah,
No,
it's not nice getting.
I have never told anyone to not have an ego. I've only told them to control it.
Exactly. I hate the whole idea there's no ego in jiu-jitsu. Fuck off, there's no ego in jiu-jitsu.
Everyone says,
You tell
"Oh,
me there's no ego.
leave your ego at the door." Like, did you feel good when you tapped? No. Well, then you've got an ego.
And you should, within reason.
100%,
Like,
100%. And I've given examples of when I've like stormed off the mats. I got swept when I was like a 17-year-old blue belt. I got swept by a white belt. I literally got my car and drove home. Like, nah,
grab your purse.
done with the session. Throw my toys at my pram. This is not how it's meant to be. I just lost my head. You know, like, am I proud of that? No. But is it a learning? Is it a lesson I can learn from now? 100%. Because like back then I had a bad ego. Now, if I get swept, I've got an ego to tell me that's not a good thing. Don't let it happen again. But I've got the capacity to analyze the situation and try to improve on what just happened.
And again, that level of understanding, that sort of foresight to still have that emotional investment into it, but then to constructively use that energy and use that kind of, instead of using it as frustration, but it's more of, okay, I'm going to get you back.
Yeah, I tell everyone that, like, if you get frustrated, I don't understand how that helped you. Does frustration, does losing your temper, does getting emotional, does getting upset, does it make you make better decisions? Think about any other instance in life. You have an argument with your missus, you get angry. Do you now, from that point onwards, do you say better or worse things?
Well, there we are.
Worse. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get upset. Do you now say more or less rational things? Less rational. So if you're doing jiu-jitsu and you get an emotional, either angry or upset response to a bad situation, think about it. It's literally like now you're digging the hole with two shovels, because you're literally making your life worse and worse and worse, and you can't even see the vicious circle you put yourself in. I'll tell you, if you get upset or angry or you emotionally respond to something, all you gotta do is just stop, give yourself 5, breathe it, take it in, and reset. Reset, and then start trying to be analytical again and take a correct approach to jiu-jitsu.
And again, it's so important to have that foresight from your own experience to be able to take from that, because you get a lot of coaches who haven't, been through the experiences of, when you're in this position, I'd imagine you do this, that, and the other. But no, if you've been in there, being like, yeah, I've had a bit of
Yeah,
crying in the changing room
that's
before, I know what's going on.
but if I've met a full automatic who hasn't cried in the change rooms, I don't know how that's even possible. Like, forget that, but like we've had like loads of guys train full time with us over the years, and every single one of us has had a day where we've walked off the mat, cried in the corner,
Got the
like
crying room.
sat by ourselves. Yeah, man, like it happens. Like, I mean, like because you are emotionally invested in the sport, like especially when you take it seriously. But I said like emotional response doesn't really improve your ability to get better. So like you've got to try your best to not allow that to happen. Like the easy example I always give is, say for example, I rode with you, Dan, and I absolutely tortured you for a round. I just made you feel like complete shit. Like what? Just smash you all over the mat. Statistically, you're most likely to try to get the worst person in the room and now repeat that to them. So what I did is waste 5 minutes of your life and my life. Now what you're going to do immediately after that is waste 5 minutes of your life and that person's life. So out of 5, you got 5 fives in a day. Say, for example, you got 5 fives in a day. I wasted one of them for you. You wasted the next one. Depending on how that round went, and if you felt good about smashing that person, you might now smash this person as well. Now, you wasted 3 rounds. Congratulations. You wasted over half of your own training. Unless you got the ability to reset and go, right, let's have a rational round, you're now going to completely waste your day, which is why you should try not to have an emotional response to losing or winning. You should try to analyze it and see where you can improve.
And that is, again, really interesting, that sort of analytical, matter-of-fact approach, in the sense of you're not prioritizing the win or the loss and stuff. You're prioritizing the information sort of retention and the actual experiment for
Yes,
the results and that feedback, instead of just the
man, it is like an experiment, isn't it? Rolling is just like an active experiment where,
practical, isn't it?
yeah, parts are moving, and you're just trying to stay ahead of the experiment. You're trying to
Now,
control the parameters and keep yourself in the game.
now, this is where the experiment concept gets more interesting, because the end result isn't always the same, because the variants keep changing as well. And again,
Exactly.
it just keeps going because it's so frustrating. It's like, okay, so I've got my test tube, I've
But
got this
that's what I mean.
specific amount,
Is
then
it
a bit more.
is it frustrating, or is it the best thing in the world?
It's
Because it's a
both.
problem. It's a problem you can never solve. Which is that's just brilliant, isn't it? For someone who enjoys problem solving, you shouldn't be mad that you can't solve a problem. You should be excited at every new level you achieve. Every time you like unlock a new technique, or you unlock a new sequence you're hitting, or your hit rate improves, or your escape improves. Like that's just like, wow, that's brilliant. How much fun is that? Like you're getting better.
I mean, that terminology is so important as well. Unlocking, understanding, learning. It's very positive
Yeah.
ways of saying, okay, it keeps changing, but it's a positive change. It's a development. I've got a new level up. I've got a new understanding. I've built this sort of skill set. It's not just, oh, I've
Like
got to do another one. No, I've
one
unlocked
of
it.
so I rolled with my students last week. So it was like 3 or 4 of us a spar and get me ready for Grapple Fest. And he's a purple belt. He's really good. I rate him very highly, and he submitted me for the first time he ever has. And we might roll 20 to 30 rounds in a week. And this guy, he's been one of my main training partners for the last 2 years. So think how many rolls we've had in 2 years, And he submitted me for the first time last week, and he got up and he was kind of like, well, what do we do now? Type thing. Like, he's just like, and I was just like, man, good job. Let's go again. Touch
Oh,
hands.
here's my black belt. I'll see you tomorrow.
Nothing changed. Nothing changed for me though. At the end of the round, I was like, oh, thank you, buddy. Like, well done. Like, you capitalized on a position where I failed. Gifting me the opportunity to not do that again. And you best believe I'm not going to do it again, because that's what I believe in. Isn't like, if you get caught once or twice for the same thing, it's not a variable now; it's a constant, and you can control the constant. I mean, you can learn off that, and then you learn and you improve. And he was kind of like, oh man, like he didn't know how to react. But what happened actually in that role is I came out quite hard. It was a competitive round. He came out super aggressive. He was like full of beans. He was after it. We had like a proper like 1-2 minute ruck. I submitted him first. We got back up. I took my foot off the gas. He came out aggressive again. I was too chilled. Made a few bad decisions because I was a bit composed. Sorry, I was a bit complacent. He took my back and he choked me off a wrestling scramble. Now, we've been in that scramble situation about 1,000 times in the last year, and not once has he taken my back. So he took my back off this and choked me, and I was like, oh, fair play, that was really good. We got back up, and what was weird this time is I reset. So instead of being complacent, I reset. I went, right, let's sort this out. Come on, let's go back to a proper jiu-jitsu game. And he went overconfident. So he came after me now because he was like, I've got him. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Because he thought I was going to be demoralized. I wasn't demoralized. I was reset. I brought myself back down to a position where I was like, right, let's do a proper round. Let's get going. And he came after me. I chilled. And then I took his back off a wrestling scramble and choked him straight away, like immediately after what he just did to me. But I tried to explain to him after the round because he was like, like I was on cloud 9, then I was in the dumps, and I was like, listen to yourself. Like that's not like jiu-jitsu's not this. It's just you just keep yourself at a good constant where you feel happy, uh, and then learn off that. Like when you submit me, it didn't feel good. No, like 3-4 years ago, would I have raged? Yeah, but I'm not going to do that now because I know that was a great learning experience for me, and it's gonna happen to me, and I'm just gonna get back into jiu-jitsu. Like it's okay. Like it's not the biggest deal in the world, man, to lose in the gym. If anything, when people think it's a big deal, that's just ridiculous. It's not a deal at all. It's just part of training.
Now, when we had Greg Jackson over at our gym for a seminar, he said a very interesting point along the same kind of lines about emotional investment in your sparring, your training. And like, if you sort of get so invested in your thing, it's like when you're swimming in the pool and you try and reach for the ledge, but you fall short, then you start panicking to try and find it. And that same kind of thing of, okay, I think this arm bar is going to work. You put everything into it, and then the arm slips out. It's that sort of.
Yeah, like I go home disappointed with myself from a lack of performance, but I'm not mad or upset. I'm just analyzing myself and being like, look, our hit rate was there today. We need it to be there. Like, how are we gonna make those changes so that we get that hit rate? And it's about being hard on yourself so you can improve, but not being so hard on yourself that you don't even see the enjoyment of improving. Like actually, I've got this really weird thing where like sometimes when I'm in a camp, if I'm like we really start up in the training for an opponent, if I got a good match coming up, like every now and again I'm like, oh boys, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm spent. Like you need to give me 3 or 4 days and just let me do my own thing. And I will literally watch some jiu-jitsu matches, and I'll watch like a technique someone catches, like maybe like a jumping back take or a rolling an M&I roll, or just basically one of the crazier parts of jiu-jitsu. I'll pick something that's like really flash, and then I'll literally only try to hit that technique for like 4 days in every single round.
Spin
And that's
around.
it's literally the only thing I'll do is try that one technique for like 4 days. And what I like about it is it's almost like being in like nursery again. Like, you get to count those numbers and you get to see progression. You kind of like, it's amazing because like if you say you're working on an armbar, but you've been working on an armbar for the last 12 years and you can't hit an armbar, you could be like, man, this is absolutely demoralizing as like my brain cannot take this. It's an overdrive. I can't take the fact that I'm failing so much. But when you get a totally brand new technique that you never do, and you start trying it, and someone takes you back and chokes you, well, that's definitely an acceptable outcome, because that's why you're trying the new technique, is to try to get it to work. So if a negative outcome happens, your ego can handle that no problem, because it doesn't matter, does it? It literally doesn't matter, because it's just an outcome that was able to happen from this new technique you're trying. But by day 4, if I start hitting it consistently on people, I go home, I'm on cloud 9, because like within 4 days I've seen, like, I was getting submitted from the option I was trying. I was almost getting it. I was getting to a good position, but I was getting what I needed, or what I wanted. So you can see progression in a short space. But the problem is when people fixate on the techniques they use every single day and they start honing in on it, and maybe the hit rate goes a little bit lower, they start to get down on themselves a lot, And it happens a lot in camp. Sometimes when I'm training really hard for a big match, and things aren't going right, I'll stop and I'll go, well, look, this isn't going right. Let's pick something that I can make right. And I pick something totally random, try it out for a few days, and I get my mojo back. and then I just go back into my game.
It's really interesting where that kind of amount of progression and that sort of quick fix of I need something just to spike. It's like when you're playing Call of Duty and stuff, and you get your levels up really quickly at the start, thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm awesome at this." Then he gets the higher ranks, thinking, "Okay, it's taken a while now. It's not quite as
100%.
much fun." The same
Yeah, but
kind of
then like
like quick
say
spike.
for example, on Call of Duty though, like you were, I don't know, I don't play those type of games, but say like you were
So on
really
low.
good at running around like sniping. When say you only use a sniper on Call of Duty for like the first 5 years you play it, and you're like, "Do you know what? But like this is frying me. I'm not getting the success rate I was getting." And you go, "Do you know what? Let's put a sniper away today. Let's just go around and try and see if we can knife people." Like you expect the hit rate to be lower. You expect bad outcomes, but you can have fun with it. And in
Oh,
jiu-jitsu,
okay. I see what you mean. Then you're trying something lower percentage, so if it works, it's happy days. But because it's low, you don't mind the
yeah.
other
I was
side. Oh,
trying so
okay, I thought you meant
I
more
tried
sort of
some.
quick fix kind of thing. But no, that's even more
No,
interesting.
I tried something totally brand new. I tried a technique that I've never tried before. I literally look at something, I'm like, man. Like for example, I tried the Tariqa Plata. That was 1 week I spent where I was like, I'm just gonna do Tariqa Platas all day because I can't like nothing was going right. Spent a week doing that, and literally every single time I got hold of someone's arm in my gym, they were going wild because they knew I was gonna get a Tariqa Plata every single time. I was trying flying triangles for a few weeks, a few years back, just on and off. I catch like some guys like 3 or 4 times in one round with a flying triangle, just repeatedly, just flying triangle. And they were like, I know what's coming, and they're like, I can't stop it, but it's because I didn't care. Like I was just like, I would just try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I can accept that, and I can improve it and just try again. So it's you can inject like boost the confidence and almost just make your training fun again.
I guess you need that as well to sort of keep that longevity in the sport. Because as much as you're saying earlier about sort of sucking the fun out of it and keeping it more efficient and keeping it more progress orientated, you're
Yep.
also doing it all the time. So you also need to
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
it
you do.
at some point.
Like I never like. What's mad is like literally, if there was mats on the floor right now, someone walked and said you're gonna roll, I'd be like, yeah. I absolutely love rolling. Like there's nothing more fun for me, but it's because if the fun gets sucked out, or I come to a point where I'm getting a bit fed up, or I'm getting demoralized, I I don't just keep going like just keep banging my head against the wall. I just go, well, let's just switch it up. Let's just change it up, have some fun. Let's do something different. Pick different sparring partners, whatever. But I don't like. I would never now, which I would have done years ago, is I would have picked someone a lot worse than me and wrecked them. Like because that's producing happiness through someone else's um, unhappiness. Like I'm
Mm,
creating a positive state of mind for me by putting you down.
bullying.
Yeah, I don't need to do that. But the thing is, in jiu-jitsu, like it's because it's not bullying because you can do it. You're allowed to just go and
It's
survive whatever
encouraged,
you
isn't
want.
it?
And
It's kind
yeah,
of encouraged to sort of like,
you
humble someone and this, that, and the other. And,
yeah, you can go as hard as you want on someone, and people are like, yeah, it's cool. But for me, like, why do I need to show someone I can beat them? Like, there's no
it's a bit dated, isn't
that's
it?
not joyful. Yeah, it's nothing because you don't want that negativity to spread. If it's a chain of spread, and like I said, I will beat you, then you'll go beat this guy will beat this guy, and then all of a sudden you got a negative vibe in the gym because everyone is just solely focused on who can beat who. Man, I don't submit me, sweep me, pass me, take me down. Cool, because I'll just learn and we'll come back and we'll just get better. Like it's okay. Like that's perfectly acceptable training condition. No, but like that's not how I used to train. I used to train with it's always about targets on people's backs, pushing to be the best. Like, and it was negative for my my mental health and my positivity for training. It's everything about it was demoralizing.
I mean, it's really impressive to have that sort of mentality throughout the sort of ranks as well, just especially coming to the higher level of competition. And again, try and have that awareness of thinking, okay, maybe going out hard all the time isn't that sort of like most, I don't know, efficient, sort of productive way to go about. Now, Ash,
Uh,
one question
yeah.
before I let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Post comp food. I want to know. So we've gone very heavy in the sort
Uh,
of technique side. I want to know post like big competition.
honestly, like my diet's not the best anyway, if I'm honest about it. I don't take out all bad food. I try my best to eat clean and fuel my body. Um, but it's always the same for me. Like say I cut for MMA, say I cut for jiu-jitsu, like when I made 135, for cast I did before, I made 135 and as soon as I refueled, everything that I wanted became unappealing to me. I just want like my favorite meals are always like chicken bites, like any form of like, but not like chicken nuggets, like
From Sainsbury's and
boneless
stuff, a little like throw the
yeah,
little fridge
like
ones.
boneless chicken wings, for example. Like in America, boneless chicken wings. Like over here, I go to Wetherspoons and have chicken bites a lot. Like I just enjoy like sauces and stuff. You know, like I don't. There's not like a cheat meal where I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this one meal. Like for lockdown, I have cheat meal actually on Sunday today. One of my favorite meals at the moment is sweet potato fries and the chicken Kiev, and that's not super naughty or anything, but it just tastes good, and it's not really what I'd have every day, you know. So it just goes in and out. But I don't tend to have one cheat meal, and I've tried to give up fast food. Usually, it would have been like a few years back. It would have been a Big Mac meal with 20 chicken nuggets. Like every comp I went to on the way back, I would drive through. I'd get a Big Mac meal, 20 chicken nuggets. I just blast that, just cane that. But I try not to do that now.
Well, there's quite a lot of variety and quite much like this conversation, so much substance in the answer. It wasn't just a one-off sort of quick fire thing. No, it depends. There's loads of different variables in this. There's no like
There's
direct
loads, man.
outcome.
Like that's so. But so like I saw a wicked post the other day on this, and someone posted that like any question you've ever asked me is my interpretation of that question at that given moment in time. If you ask me the same question right now, like now compared to a year ago, from the exact same technique, I might change my answer, and that's a problem. Like when people do quick fire with me, I'm like, but like that's literally like as if it's just going like right today, like pick today exactly your favorite cheat meal, and it just changes all. Like, obviously, it's changed all the time, doesn't it? Like some people, like I obviously like I adapt all the time for a lot of things, you know. So like my brain changes to competition, non-competition. You know, like I've got a match coming up, so I'm not sitting here craving bad food all the time because I know I can't, you know. So, but you know, I know it was fun talking to you anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it. Like,
I really did. And before we let you go, then another point there is perspective is such a powerful thing in itself. I think this is why the sort of spectrum of jiu-jitsu is so like varied, because again, it's like the whole thing. If you see like a piece of art, you see, I don't know, something on the wall. I see it in one way, you see it a
well,
separate way, and how then you interpret that information, how you explain it.
when we talked about when I asked those two students to write down,
Mm.
but that's what it is, isn't it? They write down their interpretation of the role, and that's what I think is beautiful because, like, say you're passing my guard, I could literally be counting ceiling tiles, just going la 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 la, just going like he's nowhere near past. And in your head, you could be like, oh, I can feel it any second now. He's going to give the pass up, you know, because you think your pressure's good enough. And that's what I tell everyone all the time. Like, it's always your interpretation. So, like, if you're sitting there going like, oh, I am under pressure, or I'm going to get past, but guess what? You're going to get past. Like, you've got to have a mental edge with this type of stuff. You've got to be like, man, I'm going to achieve positivity from this position, you know.
Definitely as well. When it comes to, again, the amount of variabilities in there, because it's your perspective on certain situations and also the outcome, and then the follow-up response to then either being successful or unsuccessful, that kind of complacency from
Yeah.
getting the success and then
In
the
in
accepting
my
of it.
head, I can never get taken down. I can never get past. I can never get swept. Like, of course I can, but in my head, that's exactly how I feel when I go into a role. I'm like, man, I'm not going to come in with negativity. I'm not going to be like, oh, this guy's going to take me down. I just go, look, I'm going to take him down. Like, this is going to be the day. Even if when people, you know, people in the gym were beating me consistently, in my head, it was always today's the day. Because it's got to be someday, innit? Like one day you've got to be able to achieve what you're putting your time and effort into. So why can't it be this day? You know, maybe it's not, but maybe it's tomorrow. Who knows?
Well, you need that kind of why not approach, otherwise you don't go anywhere. Because then
Definitely.
what? You just stay in white belt comps. Imagine you're still in white belt comps thinking, okay, I got like 7 stripes in your white belt. I think one day it's going to get there. One day here I am.
Yeah. Man, like, as everyone's journey is different, and I just think like the main thing is just enjoy jiu-jitsu. That's what I tell everyone. Like, if you don't enjoy jiu-jitsu and you literally need to try and be good at it, find something else you enjoy. Just go be good at the thing you enjoy, because you have to commit so much that it it doesn't make sense to commit to something you don't enjoy.
With that in itself, I'm going to sort of scratch the surface a bit more on that. Because when it comes to being good at something, good is not an absolute. Good is a perspective on a situation. Because
100%.
if you're blue belt smashing white belts, would you say you're good at jiu-jitsu because your percentage of subbing versus being subbed is higher?
Ah, no.
There you go.
Well,
Because then what is
my
good
count,
to
my counter argument to you is where was your where were your goalposts set? Because I ask my students quite a lot. I go like, oh, what, if when guys say to me, I want to be a good level competitor, I'm like, right. So currently, where are your goalposts? Like, where would you, if you quit, if something happened to, say something happened to me tomorrow, like, and I was unable to do jiu-jitsu ever again, like say I was in a car crash or whatever, or something where like I
120
couldn't keep
blondies?
performing. Yeah, I just couldn't keep competing at a high level. Like, would I have, would I be happy with what I've achieved? The answer is yes, but do I think I could have achieved more? Yes, because I surpassed already what I thought I was going to achieve. Like, I won the Black Belt European Nogi Championships. I never thought that was going to happen. Do you mean? Like, I was ranked number one in the world at brown belt. I never thought that was going to happen. Do you mean, like, I competed because I enjoyed it. I didn't compete because I was like, I'm going to be world champion. I wasn't like, do you like you see in like motivational movies where they got like the poster on their wall and they're like, I'm going to win that tournament or I'm going to beat that guy, and they like rip the poster off the wall just before they go to the tournament, that sort of stuff. That was just, it was never me. I was never sitting there going like, oh, one day I'm going to be this. ADCC, I watched it in Nottingham whenever it was, like 2008 or like, it was ages ago. It was so 2013. Something like that. It was 8 years ago, something like
Mm.
that. But so I went to Nottingham ADCC, and I wasn't sitting in the stands going like, I'm going to be there one day. I was sitting in the stands going, this is cool. Like, this is brilliant, man. Fair play. These guys are fantastic at jiu-jitsu. And I loved the weekend, and then went back to the gym on Monday and just carried on training because I just loved it. I just loved the sport. So like, I ask my guys all the time, like, where are your goalposts? Because if you wanna, in your head, if you everything is about you becoming British champion of blue belt, well, man, let's go to work. Let's put some work in and let's try to achieve that goal. Because if we achieve that goal, if we fall short of that goal, we can just adjust the goalposts and then be realistic and give ourselves something that we can be happy about.
I think as well with these style of goalposts as well, it almost I don't know, but even the term goalpost doesn't even make that much sense because again, being an ADCC champion, like if you were say 2020 champion, what about 21, and so on and so forth, so that is already moving in itself, and the things you achieve along the way are significant in their own right. And this whole concept of an absolute, I don't know, definitive end result of okay, I've crossed the finish line, I've got this, I've now completed this, and this is where it gets
We
so
can't
tricky.
complete jiu-jitsu.
Exactly, and this is kind of the
Can't complete.
this is where
That's why
like
I
things
say
like
it's
pound rankings, things like absolute.
unfortunately.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, like, do you like when I've competed and like I won the players title?
Mm.
I genuinely was happy for about maybe a day. On the second title, I wasn't that happy at all because I felt like I just corrected a wrong. Like, I didn't even feel like I achieved. I felt like I was just making up for a mistake. So because but that's what I mean with the goalposts. Like, some people would be like, man, if I won a players title, I'd be absolutely over the moon. To me, it was a step in the right direction. Seems like yeah, I bought my first house like 2 years ago. With my wife, we bought a house together for the first time ever. And I know a lot of people might be like, on the day they move in, they're like, oh my god, this is the dream. But for me, it was like a step in the right direction. Like, it was a step towards where I'd like to see my life going. And when I compete and when I win stuff, that's what it feels like these days. Is it feels like all I've done is I've actually moved the goalposts further away. Like, it feels like I've allowed myself the ability to believe in myself to achieve more. Have you seen Coach Carter?
Not for ages, but yeah, go on.
But there's a wicked scene in that where a guy says a speech from Coach Carter. He keeps asking this kid,
Mm.
"What is your deepest fear?" And he replies with like this huge paragraph of speech. But like, the way I interpreted it is the fact that exactly what I just said there is that every time you achieve it, that it inadvertently, without you knowing it, it just opens more doors to try to achieve more. And like, that's what, like, it's about you shining bright on yourself allows actual other people to follow in your footsteps and then achieve as well, and that's what I think is brilliant about what especially a few people in the UK are doing now, because let's be honest about this wave of competitors we've got, like Fionn, Ross, even like Bradley Hills and all these people who are fantastic ambassadors, Dan Strauss for UK BJJ, man, in 10 years' time, they're probably going to be infinitesimal. They're going to be the people who are paving the way for the actual generation of UK grapplers who are going to kill it. But like the part they played it's worth more than anything in it, because they are allowing other people to see it as a viable thing.
Whereas if I've seen further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants and that kind of thing of, they've built this sort of, I don't know,
Definitely,
this
yeah. Because
path and you've got to then...
if a mum in my gym says, "Oh, all my kid wants to when they get old now is be a jiu-jitsu athlete," I'm like, that is brilliant. Because when I was a kid and I wanted to be a jiu-jitsu athlete, everyone was telling me to get a real job. I was getting told all the time, "Oh, what you do is a hobby. Oh, when you do this, or when you do that." I was like, "Look, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine. It's all cool." But now, because I did stay in my lane, it's allowing other kids to change theirs, and like people are being asked, like they're aspiring to want to be jiu-jitsu athletes, or want to be MMA athletes, or want to train full time. Like that's incredible, man. And like in the UK, that wasn't a thing 10 years ago.
And this is where it's so important to have these sort of, I can't think what the term is, these sort of, what's the word? We sort of pioneers are the word I'm going to use, for taking these different paths and these sort of going against the grain, in the sense of things always seem unorthodox until you get the end result. And like, you see a lot of people when it comes to things that are, I want to be a world champion. Oh, you'll never be a world champion. You're the best one in the gym, if that, and da 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 da. No, they go off and do this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. I think, okay,
Yep.
I always believed in them, yeah, because they build that path and get the blueprint and this kind of thing as well. And on that note of progression and opening these doors and everything else, you've explained that in a very positive light. But when it happens, did you ever get any sort of rude awakenings, in the sense of, this is meant to be the biggest achievement of my career so far, and then the sort of depressing kind of post sort of thing of, oh, was that it?
Well,
I grinded so hard, I got this bit of like, bit metal.
It depends, because like sometimes I still look down at my waist when I wear my gi and my black belt on, and I'm still like, oh man, like this is so cool, like this is wicked, like how is this the life we're living? Like, I mean, this is incredible, Or like I'll walk into the gym and Polaris belt will be on the wall, and I'll be like, oh man, that's really cool, But I don't know if you know, but a lot of Olympic athletes, after the Olympic Games, they get depressed because of exactly what you're talking about. As like they've dedicated their whole life to something, for the combination to happen, and then after it, they've never thought of like what comes next, But that's what I mean about the goalpost moving all the time. Is just you got to keep just pushing yourself a little bit harder. Obviously, I think if I was later in my career and we were talking towards like if I was talking about winding down a little bit or whatever, then I might get like bigger downs. But right now, when I win something, it just like it kind of riles me on to believe I can do better, and keep pushing. Like I want to be, top 10 in flow rankings by the end of the year. I want a couple of matches to put some stuff right. But like it's all about personal goals. Like I do it for me, and that's what I tell everyone. Like I'm a representation of my gym, my team, which is brilliant. But at the end of the day, like I'm out there, I'm on the mats, I'm doing my best, and I believe that's what the most important thing is. Is that I do it for myself. I just go out there and just test myself, and if I do well, great. If I don't, I don't.
A lot of what I like about the way you've all described all of this is how you've made it your way of doing it. You haven't followed the blueprint to the same T of, I train the same way these people do. I
Yeah,
tried that way, it didn't work for me, and this has been my unique way of making the system work for
that's the
me in my
thing.
way.
I'm actually most proud of that of anything, because I've always said, and you can ask anyone who knows me from my gym, but I've always said I'd rather fail with my gym. So if you told me right now, like I've seen the future, if you stay with the gym you're with, you will not win a world championship. But if you move gym, you will. I wouldn't move. So I would stay with my gym and I'd fail in my gym, because I want to believe in my process. I want to believe in my people. I want to believe in like what I'm helping my team achieve. So I'd rather just fail with my team or achieve my team. Like at the end of the day, like we're a small team from small city with, we haven't got great connections. We're not full of world champions on the mats. We're just a bunch of guys who get together. We interpret jiu-jitsu a specific way, and we push hard to be good at jiu-jitsu. And then, you know, kind of I'm like, I'm suppose I'm there. Kind of they just put me forward and go, well, go do what we're putting together,
Off you
and,
pop.
and show people that, and just see how it goes, and that's cool, and I'll do that, and the more guys in my gym want to compete and represent that style, then brilliant, and if people don't want to compete, that's cool as well, but like that's what I'm actually most proud of, is that I feel like, when people tell me, oh, should you go travel and get these guys in, should you look again, someone to compete. My coach over the years has been like, oh, do you want to try and get someone from the UK or Europe to come down so we can get them involved in your camp? I'm like, don't worry, don't stress, man. Like if it's 5 blue belts on the mat to stay for me spar with, we'll make it work. We'll make something happen, and that just is what it is. I mean, that just is what it is, man. There are obstacles, there are hurdles to overcome. But yeah, I do trust in the process that I'm doing, So hopefully it'll work out. But maybe in 10 years' time, I'll eat my words and I won't achieve anything else. But there's only one way to find out on that.
Well, again, it's so important having that integrity. And there's a thing, people who listen to the podcast will know I say this quite a lot, but there's an Ant Middleton book, I think it's The Fear Bubble. It's the reference of seeing not a peak as a peak, but as a ledge. Then when you get to certain points in your career, to be able to look back and reflect and take in what you've done and then keep going again, instead of trying to think, okay, this is it, now what, essentially, that kind of...
I remember when I was a purple belt, I won the British Open, and I literally was like, I was probably happier the day I won the British Open than when I won my Players title. But because, like, of what doors were closed at that time, what was considered an achievement at that time, and what I believed I could achieve at that time. Like, I believe I can make a dent in the 66-year-old division and prove myself to be one of the better athletes of this time. This time from right now. I really feel like I can. But back then, I was like, man, I'd love to show people I'm one of the better guys in Britain. But that gave a moment in time, and that was everything to me. But now when someone says to me, oh, I'd love to be put up a British champion, I'm like, yeah, cool, we'll get that done. We'll get that done, no worries. Yeah, we'll get that. Like that's, if anything, like we can maybe push the bar up a little bit. We can get that and get this. Because we can achieve that. But then, like for example, like when I won the British Open one year, it was one match against a guy who just had his purple belt, and I'd had mine for 2 years just before I got my brown belt. And then my brother, when he done the purple belt British Open, the division was stacked. It was just like ruthless guys. And then I looked at like the British Opens list last year, and like there was hardly anyone in it. So it depends then. Like when I felt like I won
Getting
it
lucky.
once. Yeah, well, yeah. When I won it the one time when I had a good run in the field, I googled the guys, and to be fair, they were the best in Britain at that time, and I was happy to be able to beat them. But that's why I was so happy with the achievement. But then when I said, especially the second Players title, I really felt like I was just correcting a black mark off my record. And again, like I'd happily have the match back with Richard Alcon, so we can settle it best out of 3 because I got 1 win, he's got 1 win, and any rule set really I don't mind. But I felt like I was just correcting a black mark on my record when I fought for the title against Richard Alcon. I wanted to prove to myself. I just want to prove to myself that wasn't me. The one that when I lost to him, I didn't perform at my best ability. But he can now equally say that he did not perform his best when we fought the second time, which is why we could fight a third time, which I'm cool with. But that's the way I look at it all the time. Just go out there, try your best, and just you can just move those goalposts a little bit of time, which makes stuff achievable. Because it's more fun to actually get to the goalposts than it is to keep putting yourself down.
Oh, 100%. Now, Ash, where can people find you in the old social media?
My Instagram is awilliamsbjj, which I go on sometimes. I do post quite frequently, but when I do start training more, I do post a lot more, to be fair. But that's it really on following. If you want to add me on Facebook, I just accept. My wife will tell you I accept anyone because I just assume they're from jiu-jitsu. To be honest, like they got jiu-jitsu on their profile picture. Cool, accept. But I don't tweet or anything like that. So just Instagram and Facebook.
Cool, that'll be in the description.